As I gavel the meeting into order here, and please ask all to, if they haven't already, to silence their devices. And announce also that this meeting is being streamed live to the Carroll Media Center's YouTube channel, as well as the town's Facebook page. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town of Sykesville Mayor and Town Council meeting. Today is Monday, September 23rd, 2024, and I am calling this meeting to order at precisely 7 p.m. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a brief moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And that moment of silence, please. Okay, everybody, thank you. So I think I heard this before I called the meeting to order. There are no public comments, sir? Thank you. Okay, we'll skip that item and move right on to our consent agenda and ask if everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from the September 9, 2024 meeting.
I did and made a slight improvement. It wasn't wrong, but I thought a little wording change would make it even better, and I did request it.
And was that completed, clerk? Thank you so much. With that in mind, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from September 9th, 2024?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second it. Mary, go ahead there.
No, so close, so close. So the motion is seconded by Councilman Grassley. All in favor of the approval of the minutes from September 9th, 2024, please say aye.
Aye.
And that's everyone. But for the record, any abstentions? He's not here anyway, so very good. Minutes are approved. Here we go with the first item of new business, second item on the agenda, to consider, discuss, and act on the station financing plan. And I'll just give a brief summary before I throw it over back to Joe. At the September 9th council meeting, the council agreed to participate in the upcoming renovations of the station building to accommodate the new lessee. Staff is providing this report to council to authorize the specific funding source itself. And I'm just going to capture one sentence here from the info, Joe. The town entered into a lease agreement with Stazione Incorporated in December 2023 for the purposes of reopening a restaurant in the town's historic train station. Efforts have been ongoing to plan for the necessary upgrades to the structure, including receiving conceptual approval from the Maryland Historic Trust. And I'll turn that to you.
All right. So as I'm sure all of you remember, we did hear a presentation from Dante and Vittori at the last meeting. They presented a little over $1 million worth of improvements that they want to do to the building. They asked us to participate up to $350,000. We have $125,000 already budgeted in current fiscal year to go towards that project. Obviously, if we want to meet that 350, we had to come up with what the difference was. We did look at potential grant funding from the Department of Housing and Community Development Strategic Demolition Grant that we currently have. It is not clear at this time if that type of project would qualify for funding. There might be components of it, like for example, if we have to sprinkler the building, that would be something that might be covered by the Strategic Demolition Program. So because, again, we didn't want to get too complicated with the funding mechanisms, we're just going to say we're not going to utilize strategic demolition funding at this time. If a portion of the project does fall under that, then we can go ahead and pursue that later. But at least for the purposes of this meeting, we're going to ask, or staff is asking, that monies from our unassigned fund balance just get dedicated to this project. And like I said, if anything can be covered by the strategic demolition grant that we have, then it would just reduce the amount that we take out of our unassigned balance. So the recommendation tonight is authorize basically the reserving of that funding from the unassigned balance, that $225,000, and then that'll show up in the next budget revision that you see.
Okay. Are there questions for staff?
Joe, I know that we talked about it, and you're going to try to see if you can use the current strategic demolition grant, but will you also try to find out if there's any other grants that might? Okay.
There's an ongoing effort, and again, it's all about timing, really, because any other grant that we apply for, usually there's a specific deadline for when the grant is due, and then there's a time limit, or there's time that you have to wait for those grants to be evaluated and then awarded, and there's paperwork. From our conversations with our leasee, they're wanting to move rather quickly on this. So if a grant that does come up that doesn't have necessarily that timeline to it, then it's something we can certainly apply.
Okay.
And for the edification of the public, that basically means some are reimbursed, some grant money is reimbursed, and some you have to have the project, you can't have done any of the project or a part of whatever it is you're funding, the part of the project you're funding before getting the cash, so from the grant. So the timeline has already been an intense one, and it will continue to be. So, but we'll keep track of it. Good question. Thank you, President Carter. Anyone else?
So do you have a liaison for the demolition grant that you've been talking to get clarification on if any of that's...
We do, yeah. There's somebody that's always assigned to those grant programs that we're in constant communication with.
Great.
Anything else for staff from a question perspective? That being said, I will report the, kind of reiterate what Joe just said about the financial impact. The fiscal year 25 operating budget is not affected by these requests. However, capital investments will be increased by $225,000 allocated from the town's unassigned fund balance. And as Joe mentioned, this amendment would be reflected in the town's next budget revision for 2025. And the staff is recommending that we approve the allocation from the town's unassigned fund balance for the purpose of renovations to the station building in the amount of $225,000. And that is the motion that is being requested.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Leo Keenan.
I'll second that.
Seconded by President Carter. Is there any further need for discussion or debate with the motion on the table? Okay, that being said, I will call for a vote on the motion, which is to approve the allocation from the town's unassigned fund balance for the purposes of renovations to the station building in the amount of $225,000. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. That motion is passed unanimously. Brings us to our third item on the agenda, which is to consider, discuss, and act on the introduction of ordinance number 2024-06. The ordinance of the Council of the Town of Sykesville amending Chapter 165, Vehicles and Traffic, of the Code of the Town of Sykesville to incorporate Article 3, Section 165-16, School Zones, and Section 165-17, Speed Monitoring Systems, to provide for the authorization and use of speed monitoring systems in school zones in the town. And a quick summary on this is that the Town Council has requested information regarding the potential installation of speed cameras on Springfield Avenue due to the increase in pedestrian activity around the Sykesville Middle School. And I'll toss that over to Joe.
So again, this was several months ago that we began having these conversations about the possibility here. Before you tonight is really just the first step in what will be many steps if we decide to go down this route. So first we need the authorizing resolution, authorizing ordinance. And then we would have to go through the process of traffic studies and engineering just to make sure, where would this equipment actually go? What areas would be specifically signed and designated as school zones? We'd have to evaluate the number of pedestrians and bicycle traffic in and out of the school areas to make sure that we're actually putting these cameras in places that are authorized to have them. So again, this is really step one to start the conversation and see if this is something that we really want to pursue. Because again, once this is passed, then we would start going through and spending some money to make sure that we're following all the rules and regulations to have the cameras installed. Chief and I did, again, this was several months ago, have a conversation with a contractor or provider of these types of systems. I'm assuming, come a long way in the decade or so since the last time the town looked at these. They seem to be relatively plug and play. There's not a lot of upfront investment of the municipality because usually these contractors are reimbursed or paid through the fees that are collected on the citations. The citations themselves are relatively low. They're $40 for an infraction because I think they're referred to as civil penalties. I'm sorry, they're higher now?
That went up effective June 1st to $80.
$80.
Wow.
Really? Mm. The state highways needs to update their website.
Yes, they should.
Could we change that, or is that the state law? State law. There's
In fact, there's enacting legislation from the state that's providing us the opportunity to do this. So, and then the fee is tied to that.
I'm assuming there's still no points aside.
Of course.
Yeah. So it's still a civil penalty, which is a little higher, I guess, in cost. But again, that's the purpose of the ordinance being presented tonight, to start that conversation and see if this is something we want to pursue, knowing that this is just the first of many steps that would have to occur before we'd actually implement this program.
Very good. Thank you so much. I have some comments, but I'll leave them. My peers will probably make the same. We'll start with.
Well, I do have a question, knowing, something about devices. How sensitive are they? I mean, if someone blows by a child on doing 20, 30, or, cook them, that's fine with me. But I personally don't want to get a ticket that says, well, you were driving 25.2.
It's got to be 10 miles.
It's gotta be
How sensitive are they, is
12.
what I'm asking.
It's got to be 12 miles an
12
hour.
miles.
12 miles, oh, okay, never mind.
And the speed limit on that road is 30 now,
Right.
not 25, which is
Oh.
another conversation I'd like to have at another time. But do you have anything for us, President Carter?
Can we regulate how many we want? Or is it,
How many cameras? Yeah, and so again, that would be part of like the engineering study to figure out where the best location for these would be. Plus, and again, this is just one of the contractors that I'm sure there's several out there, but they have both fixed location cameras and mobile cameras that we could get. So again, that could be part of the conversation as well.
okay, but if we decide that we just want one, we
Yep,
can
it
just
would be
pick
fine.
one?
Mhm.
Okay.
Anything?
So yeah, that was my question of just, and the other question I had is the radius of the traffic study. Are there other purposes that we might be able to, if we're going to invest in it, that we as a town might be able to benefit in other ways of that knowledge?
From the outcome of the study?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So again, and this kind of dovetails into this conversation as well. As the town did receive a Safe Streets for All grant last year. We just got the authorization to move forward with that. So again, all the contracts are signed. And then one of those things is to start evaluating intersections and how to make pedestrian improvements to those intersections. So as part of whether it's safe routes to schools or Safe Streets for All or whatever those types of recommendations might end up being, they can all kind of dovetail together.
Okay. So we could be kind of dealing with more than one issue with this one study that it could help us with.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yes, and in fact, the study that we were absent of this going to be doing is funded through a grant for the Safe Streets for All. So it's possible that this study could
Would
actually be
also-
partially funded, if not completely funded. Yeah.
And then, given that Springfield is a state, does that affect
It does.
any decisions that we make about where we would put the cameras?
Well, I mean, other than the state would have to agree with what we're doing. So again, all of this would ultimately result in an application being put together and submitted to the state. And the state has to authorize everything.
Okay. And then the last question I had was, I know the last time this came up, there was a concern about kind of, are we taking it and stretching it beyond, just because we can doesn't mean we should kind of thing. Is there a way, if we do this, to really target just the middle school and say future councils can't
Yeah.
kind
Well,
of
yeah.
expand on it or?
So future councils could obviously do, whatever they decide.
Right, but I mean,
The-
to make it a little,
Yeah, this ordinance is specific to Sykesville Middle School in that area.
Okay.
There were no other schools or school zones potentially identified. So it really is just looking at Springfield Avenue and the half-mile radius around Sykesville Middle School.
I mean, even if we don't need to go that far, because I think that includes 32, I don't think we want to put them on.
No, yeah, you don't
You don't
have to include any of that. It's just that's kind of the designated radius. So again, as part of like all these engineering studies and looking at where we want this infrastructure, that's what will really dictate where the cameras go and what streets we want to target.
And in fact, the guidelines from the state, from SHA, actually dictate not just the half-mile radius from the schools as the center of that, but also within that half-mile radius, what's actually considered the half-mile radius is the school area versus a school zone. And the school zone is an intersection or a place where cyclists or walkers or even traffic is influenced and increased, impacted is probably the best word, by school traffic, whether it's on foot, on pedals, or in a car. And so to answer your question, it wouldn't behoove us to focus on anything other than the areas where the students are making their way to and from school, either in their parents' car or on a bike or on their feet.
And then can we dictate or determine hours of it, or once you put it up, it's
Set by law.
24/7?
Yeah.
6 a.m. to 8 p.m., Monday through Friday.
Okay, good. So it's not like these
Can't
are going to be
run
going off at midnight or any of the other.
That's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
that's
welcome. Come one, come all after 8 p.m. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
How about you, Councilman Grassley?
I got some things to say.
Ah,
I will say that in 2010 with the petition, that's how I started getting involved in local government. I was on the petition side of things. So
Yep.
who knew? Who knew? Chief, since you were talking about it, I was just wondering. So, will this sign decrease when school's in session to the school speed limit, or is this just the street speed limit at 30?
It's set to the street.
It states the street speed limit. So when the school's in session, it's supposed to go down to 25, right?
No,
The speed limit.
It's set at 30, and all the citations are 12 miles over that.
Okay. And how much would a ticket be for 12 miles over?
They're all, well,
If
used to
an
be 40, now they're 80.
Yes, but if an officer gave us a ticket, I mean, I have no idea.
Minimum, depending on the speed, $90 plus a point.
Okay.
If it's like 10 to 19 over the speed limit, you're looking at more than that plus 2 points.
Okay. So, and is Springfield considered with the trailer? Is that like a high speeding area in the town? I mean, I'm sure. Do we have some data?
We have a lot of data. We have 5 years worth of it. And I can just tell you anecdotally from having done the crossing duties there, people fly through that school zone, through that crosswalk, and I can only imagine what it's going to be like once it's paved.
Yeah, it'll probably be worse. Yeah, I agree.
I think
My
I remember
assumption.
the first time you did it, you were shocked at the number of vehicles that go through there.
And the speed.
I spent 3 hours today studying that data. After I asked Chief for it like 3 hours before the meeting. It's why I walked in a minute before the meeting started. And of course we can all be a party to that, and we should. But 25%, 1 out of every 4 cars that passes by the speed trailer, whether it's north or south, on Springfield Avenue when it's placed, since 2019. And we don't have this year's data yet, of course, but 1 out of every 4 is speeding. Now, that could be just 1 mile an hour over, but I will tell you that 4% of those are going 11 to 30 miles per hour over the speed limit.
I agree.
Yeah, so
Tell me that percent again.
4%, just shy, 3.9% of the speeders are in violation of the speed limit by 11 to 30 miles per hour over the 30 mile per hour speed limit.
That's crazy.
And the worst offenders were actually traveling uphill. So, anywho,
It's like Oklahoma Road.
yeah, it's horrible. And, you know, there's lives crossing the street 5 days a week, and it's not the only place where there's a problem. So, anyway, my gravest concerns are obviously related to the. I'm sorry, Leo. Did you have anything?
I do.
Go for
But
it.
I don't think Al's done yet.
Yeah, I was gonna say a couple more things.
Sorry.
Stretching to get ready.
Oh, that's all right.
There was a good segue into the data. That's why I
Yeah.
started talking.
So if you could share that with the council, that'd be great. Because I'd like to look at the data also. So that'd be great. And is there a recourse if somebody gets it and says, "Hey,
Sure.
is it not
They can contest it in a court of law just like any citation.
anything else?" Okay. And is the how often is the speed limit sign calibrated to make sure it's actually doing the right thing? Is it quarterly?
I believe monthly. I can double check on that, but there's periodic calibrations, that have to be recorded by the speed monitoring administrator.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there like a minimum amount of cars and traffic that we could put
It
it
could be 1 or it could be 1,000. It could be 1 lane or it could be 4 lanes. That
All right.
system picks up everything, every speeding vehicle.
All right. That's really all the questions I have.
And of course, our traffic study will be
Well, that would answer a lot of questions.
focused on the school zones. So, whereas right now the trailers, move throughout the town, we can focus for as long as we need to on the school zones.
So a historical perspective, because I was here in 2010, and I was the sole no vote on this. And the reasoning for that was twofold. One, when it was presented by Chief Williams at the time, it was pushed as a revenue generator for the town. I mean, he smiled when he said that, and I still remember that to this day. Because
We were in financial
and the town
trouble.
was in financial trouble at the time,
Yes.
and as most people don't know, when the town police officers write citations, the town does not get any of that money. It all goes to the county because of the town-county agreement. The town would get revenue from these speed cameras. But that's my problem was it was presented that way in 2010. It's not being presented that way now. And my other problem was it was, as Councilman Guroff was pointing out, it was a wide net. I mean, it basically, I mean, they were adding it to a Montessori school, a daycare. I mean, it would basically, you could have put it on any road in town. And
Yes,
there was no limit.
They were manipulating the school zone.
Yep.
So it could go anywhere.
That was my reluctance then. I'm not, the limitations that we can place on this do away with any sort of reluctance I have now.
Thank you, Leo. Yeah, the concern, I think what raised this to the level of have staff please look at this, right, was the actual concern for the children and their safety. And, you know, I have a bird's eye view from my home office of the kids crossing Stout Hill Road at 2nd Avenue. And, you know, 15, 20 kids a day in clusters of 2 to 5 at a time, being 6th and 7th and 8th graders. And 6th and 7th and 8th graders are pretty stupid. And they're very adorable on occasion.
Believe the
They're
word
pretty
you're grasping
stupid.
for, Mayor, is naive.
They're worried about other things, Mayor.
Yeah, naive.
They're not worried at all about where they are in this place we call 2nd Avenue, that's for sure. So anyway, yeah, so that's really where that came from. And I appreciate the history from both of the gentlemen to my right, because I do recall participating as a resident, and I had nothing to say, but I did see the vitriol, and I remember wondering, because, you know, being a victim of a speed camera ticket myself when living in Howard County, you know, you only do it once. And there's a reason why there are speed limits, and there are a reason why there are school zones, and there's a reason why there's enacting legislation to allow a municipality to keep their kids safe. So everybody knows where I take on this. But so we'll be looking at just where the kids are walking and having to cross a busy road.
So can I?
Yeah, please.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I actually was done. I was going to ask if there was any further discussion.
So if the traffic study comes back and we feel like it's not worth it doing it, no harm, no foul.
We cannot do it.
We could just say no, right?
Right, absolutely.
So
Today this ordinance is just to start the process.
It's introduction.
And there'll be votes along the way as to how far down that road we go as we get more information.
So obviously this is just introduction, and so like any other ordinance, you know, we have to have a public hearing on it, so that'll be either at the next meeting, or if you want to delay it a little longer just so we can advertise and get the public opinion, we can do that as well. There's also public outreach that's required as part of all of this study effort as well. So it's, again, you know, there's going to be plenty of opportunity for you all to hear from the public and make an informed decision about whether or not this is something we really want to pursue.
how many signs need to be put up before the actual speed camera? Isn't there a
There are
warning
rules.
sign?
It's stated in the law, there's multiple advance notice of the signage. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then once the program even starts, you have a 30-day period where only warnings can be issued. So you're giving the public ample opportunity to. And again, the purpose of the program is to change drivers' behaviors.
Right.
It's not about revenue. In fact, over time, revenue should go down because people learn to slow down through that speed zone, and it's not issuing any citations.
Yeah.
So.
And don't the warning signs have to be a certain amount away from the actual
Yes.
speed
It's
camera?
all designated in the law. Yeah.
And Springfield Avenue is long enough for that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
I I do have a question. I know out of county, I've seen where speed cameras in school zones are randomly changed locations. So if we wanted to limit the amount of cameras to one, can we relocate it periodically to other high impact areas?
With the approval of the state highway, if you have an area where they've designated it's a school zone and you can move the cameras within that area, but you still have to give public notice.
Yeah, oh,
Yeah, so the sign, I'm assuming the signs for public notice that there's a speed, if we get it permanent,
Sure.
the signs notifying the public as they're driving up that
It says
it's
where
a
it is.
speed camera zone.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I mean, literally, there's something called speed camera corridor in Montgomery County, and there's one every
Yeah.
so many
On Route
miles.
97,
Yes.
in Baltimore County, I don't
better be 15 feet.
remember seeing any.
Camera lights or is it speed camera?
It's speed camera.
It's,
the
it's
big
in the
box.
signage is school zone, but they have moved, there is a tricky one, in Owings Mills.
Yeah.
That's
It's
true.
amazing.
Yes.
Mark had a comment.
Well, I just wanted to fall in behind Leo, you know. We want to protect your children. Both my daughters went to that school, and I've seen people speed through there. But anytime you start monetizing something, you say, we can make money, then I'm going to become very angry. But I support this because this is, look, see what I'm getting at?
Oh,
I don't want later on to kind of veer off into that. I want to be sure we never leave the lane of
I
protecting.
think, but like what you
Agreed.
said, I mean, the goal is to not get any
Right.
revenue, people
That
just
would be
not
perfect.
to speed, and the kids
That
can
would,
be safe.
exactly.
And so, I mean, I would say we don't even budget for it.
I mean,
You
Well,
know,
we-
just
Oh,
don't
no,
even,
no.
just
We
don't
wouldn't.
even plan on it. You
It's
know,
a-
don't put it in as
it's a win-win-win. And if somebody's got a bellyache about getting a ticket in a school zone, you know, shame on them.
Let them.
And
Then we
then
have to go 45.
you'd have to go 42
42
on Springfield Avenue if the speed is 30. Yes.
That's
And then-
And there were plenty of those in the data that I watched.
And so,
I have no sympathy for those
No.
drivers.
Nor do I.
so the other question I had was, you'd given the times. In the summer, the other concern I had was the splash pad.
Well, that's
So-
exactly one of the other reasons why we're doing it. It would be all year long that the camera would
It
be
would
on.
be, so it's.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
Monday through Friday, what are the hours?
Monday through Friday between 6 a.m. and 8 p.m.
Okay, all year. So it would cover the splash pad as well for,
During the week.
okay.
And there's other activity on Springfield Avenue that is not including the school, but it means that there's music students going in and out of the band shop. And talk about near misses, have a conversation with that business owner. So this is, well, we're good. So this is just the introduction of the ordinance. Any other discussion necessary?
I got a few more questions.
Oh, I'm sure you do. You told me you had a few, but you've already
I know.
asked
All right, I'm
several.
sorry.
No, ask as many,
All right,
ask
so to
away.
your last question, I just looked it up. It's annual calibration, so it's not monthly, it's annual.
Annual calibration. All right, so I apologize for my ignorance, but when you go through Springfield Avenue during the school hours, is the speed limit decreased?
No, it
It's
stays the same.
30.
Correct,
Is there, as it is right now?
correct.
Okay.
Did it used to change?
For some,
Some school zones may have like a flashing sign that says during school hours.
Yes.
It's
reduce
15
your
or
speed
whatever it
by
is,
10
yeah.
miles an hour or
I've seen
something
that.
like that. That would be difficult to enforce, but.
Right.
On,
But we've
on
never done
32, one of the elementary schools up there, I can't remember which
Freedom?
one, Freedom. The speed limit is 40 until you get to the school zone, and I think it drops down to 30 or 35. So
That's what I'm thinking of, but
So
it's,
maybe
that's
since
not the
it's
case
30,
law.
it doesn't drop lower?
okay. All right.
That's probably a good guess, that the speed limit's higher to start with there. Yeah. So I will, let's see. The financial impact with respect to this, should this be moved forward, fines are associated with an automatic speed enforcement program, a portion of which does stay with the jurisdiction. That said, no evaluation was done yet to estimate the potential of how much that is. And again, we're all on the same page with respect to that. And I just wanted, part of the study, all of that will come forth. The staff is recommending at this time for us as the council to approve the introduction of ordinance number 2024-06 as presented and schedule a public hearing and adoption for Tuesday, October 15th. Noting that the next council meeting is on a Tuesday and is shifted from the Monday because it's Columbus Day on the 14th. It's also Indigenous Peoples Day. I've already made my notes clear about the statistics I looked at today. Is there any need for any further discussion?
Well, Joe had asked if we want to delay it to give.
Well, he didn't ask if we wanted to. He said that was an option.
Where do we? Okay.
So if
There is an extra week in between meetings because there's 5 Mondays
Yeah.
in September. So.
yeah, so
Okay.
it's already an extra week, but
It's almost a month away.
yeah.
So, just let me, so the 14th, we have a public hearing. Let's say we pass it.
15.
15th, sorry, the 15th.
Sure.
What's the next step?
We would initiate those traffic studies to start doing the traffic counts and figuring out exactly where this equipment would actually be placed.
Okay.
We would also have to work with a potential contractor, a selective contractor, and work with that contractor on, figuring out the actual signage plan of what that would be, and then all of this information would be presented to council before we would package that and submit it to the state, so that they could actually authorize the installation of the equipment on Springfield Avenue.
So do we get the authorization from the state before we vote on it, or we vote on it before and then ask for authorization of the state?
Yeah,
B.
because as part of that application package, there has to be local authorization already.
Okay.
So that's why we have to pass the ordinance first.
And would the awarding of the contractor, would that be an open bid, or is that?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, there's multiple ways to do it. Again, I don't know if there's certain contractors that participate in, let's just call it contracts that have already been authorized to municipalities and all that.
Okay.
So it's like, it could be something that we could pick from a list.
Right.
Or we could just bid it ourselves.
Okay. And approximately how long is a traffic study? Is there any timeline on how long the state usually, does the state come in and do that?
No, this would be us. This is on our dime.
So who would we contract to do this study?
We have an ongoing contract with KCI.
Okay.
They would likely be the people that we would use.
Okay. And how long is the study for? Is it like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or is it a month?
Sure, they would give us the recommendation on exactly how long they would want to look at it. We're in the school year, so I would imagine it wouldn't take very long. But again, it's an engineering study, so not long is potentially between 3 and 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see it over the course of, like, whether it's consecutive or not. We definitely want to grab some data from different, like, weather patterns, like
Right.
different seasons.
Seasons
Seasons.
and when
Different
school's in
seasons.
session. When
Yeah.
school's in session,
Yeah.
absolutely.
This isn't going to be something that, the town passes the ordinance on the 15th, and by the end of the year we have speed cameras in place. That's
Okay.
that's not the timeline.
Right. And then we have to pay for the study, then we would apply for a grant afterwards.
Well, we already have a grant through Safe Streets for All.
Okay,
that
I'm
is-
sorry, I misunderstood.
That's
what you
okay,
said.
and that grant, the scope of work for that grant is a traffic study with respect to pedestrian safety.
Safety. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I misunderstood.
No worries. I don't mind repeating myself. Sometimes need to be told to stop repeating myself, so. Okay, now are we ready to vote? If so, I will repeat the motion on the, wait, no, we don't have a motion yet.
There's no
What
motion on
is the
table.
motion?
Do-
They would-
There's a recommended motion that's been stated, but no one's actually made the motion.
That's right. So if you'd like, usually Leo's ready, but I can call out the motion here and somebody can.
Would you like
Okay.
to
So
make a
what's
motion?
the, I'll read,
Why don't-
let me do the motion.
Why don't you read the motion since you, this
Since
is,
it's my thing.
It's your fault.
yes,
It's my fault.
it is your fault.
Okay, that's fine. I move to approve the introduction of the ordinance 2024-06 as presented and scheduled to
A public,
a
it's a typo.
public hearing and adoption for Tuesday, October 15th.
Very good. So the motion is on the table and made by Councilmember Guroff. Do we have a second?
Second.
And the second is made by Councilman Keenan. Any need for further debate before calling for a vote on the motion on the table? Okay. All in favor of the motion to approve the introduction of ordinance 2024-06 as presented and schedule a public hearing and adoption for Tuesday, October 15th, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed to the intro? Okay. That motion passes unanimously. Thank you for the robust conversation. This is why I appreciate my counsel here. Okay, next item is To consider, discuss, and act on the gatehouse porch proposal presented by Herman Restoration LLC. And this item summary includes a brief comment of my own. Approval of proposal by Herman Restoration LLC to rehabilitate the front porch of the historic Gatehouse Museum in accordance with the Maryland Historic Trust guidelines. I'm going to turn it over to Joe, but I probably have a comment or two about the background. Go ahead, Joe. Please.
Now the money.
No, don't be nervous. Don't be nervous.
So this has been, I'll start with this. The front of the gatehouse and the porch specifically has been something that obviously we've had our eye on for some time. We've noticed that it's actually sagging quite a bit on both the front and where it attaches to the building. As many of you may or may not remember, I want to say it's been 18, almost 24 months ago, we did bid this project. And the bids came in well high. What we thought it was going to be, between 100, I think I had 135 and almost $300,000.
Comedically grotesque.
Yeah. So clearly there were not either it was an issue with scope or it was just people that didn't really know what they were doing with regard to the renovations that we were asking for. So because we did go through the bidding process, we just didn't find a contractor that we thought could handle the project. We reached out specifically to Herman Restorations. They're a known firm here in town. They have a lot of ties to obviously the town of Sykesville. And they've done a lot of good work and reputable work that we can point to. They have a good working relationship with the Maryland Historic Trust as well. So again, we felt comfortable reaching out to them and having them put together a scope of work and specifying which contractors would be doing specific parts of that front porch renovation. Herman Restorations did put that work together. We did evaluate it based on kind of what we know needs to happen at the gatehouse and are certainly comfortable with moving forward with the project. And again, it came in a lot less than when we bid it the first time.
1/5 the highest.
Indeed. So again, it was just under $60,000, or actually $53,000. We're asking that $60,000 be allocated toward it because again, once you start pulling pieces off of an old structure, you never know what you're really going to run into. So we added a little bit of cushion there. From a financial perspective, the town does have an assigned balance or a restricted fund balance that's specifically designated for gatehouse renovations and gatehouse upkeep. So this project obviously would qualify for those funds. So again, we would take this money from that particular funding. So like I said, staff is obviously comfortable moving forward with this project. It's a little bit overdue, I'll just say, and is recommending approval tonight as presented.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions for staff?
Was there any reason that Herman Restoration did not bid on it when it first went out to bid? Or was he, I don't know. I have no idea why. So.
I don't know.
Okay.
I have a question. After this fund or this amount is removed from that fund?
Yeah, there's a little over $135,000 remaining in that account.
Currently?
Currently.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
After this restoration, is the house in pretty good shape? I mean,
Well, we've recently replaced the entire HVAC,
yes.
Yeah,
so that should be good to go for the rest of your and my tenure.
Yes, but I mean, I thought there was a drainage issue. Is this going to alleviate the drainage issue?
It's supposed to.
Okay.
Again,
I mean, I did read that in there, but
is it going to fix every drainage issue? I guess we don't really know until we start fixing pieces of it.
Okay.
So again, it's there might be some more basement work that has to happen to make sure it stays watertight. There's likely going to be a windows project that we end up having to come back and do at some point in the future. There's a few shingles that need to be replaced, but outside of that, the building is relatively sound.
Mm-hmm.
And so that money that's earmarked for this, is it specifically for structural issues or is it for? I know there was a question on some of that.
It's as the council dictates.
Okay.
But it is meant to be used for the gatehouse. Now, if some of you may remember, we used to actually allocate some of that funding to offset the curator salaries.
Right.
And things like that obviously wasn't going to any kind of structural improvement of the building, but it did help maintain the structure in that there were people in there and utilizing the building.
Mm-hmm. My thought just left me. Do you guys have any more questions for staff?
No.
Okay. So the financial impact on this one is that the staff is suggesting that we set the amount to not exceed $60,000 for the successful completion of this project, knowing that it's the bid was at 53. So this will eliminate the need for staff to come back to council for further approval while the project is being completed.
Unless there's something major.
Well, yes, unless there is.
Clearly.
But the good news is it's not likely in this job.
I agree.
It's not. It's a porch, and although it needs a lot of love, it's unlikely that we'll find anything else wrong with the house itself in this process.
All right, I will make a motion.
No, wait, I'm sorry. No, this was knock on wood, not I need your motion. I'm sorry. So
I see.
if it's for Micah, I'm knocking
Knock
on for Micah.
Micah, yeah.
So I just want to take this moment because it's been several years since this money was actually made in a donation, and I asked Joe to remind me of the family's name, and I just want to publicly announce, and also maybe even ask staff to either reach out to the executor of the will or a family member of Shirley M. Bossum, whose donations, because they came in, it was one donation, but it was broken up into two installments, were actually bequeathed in her will, and were made in memory of her husband, George Leakins, Jr., who passed away in 2001. Apparently, Miss Shirley passed away in 2014, October, and then we received those donations when her will was, her trust was executed. So anyway, I think the family or whomever is close to Miss Shirley would be happy to hear that something of this magnitude is being done with her generous donation, and thank her as our generous benefactor. So, now I'm ready for that motion if there is one to come forth.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposal for Herman Restoration LLC for repairs to the front porch of the Gatehouse Museum in the amount not to exceed $60,000. Authorize the mayor to sign any necessary documentation to allow the project to proceed.
So that's the motion made by
Second.
Councilman Grassley and seconded by Councilman Dyer. Any further need for debate? Hearing none, I will ask for a vote. All in favor of the motion to approve the proposal from Herman Restoration LLC for repairs to the front porch of the Gatehouse Museum in the amount not to exceed $60,000 and authorize the mayor to sign any necessary documentation to allow the project to proceed, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion also passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone. That brings us to our announcements and reports portion of our meeting. I will begin with those announcements. The next meeting is Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. That's an inside joke, and that's why Grassley and I and some others are laughing. We have volunteer opportunities available on the Planning Commission, Parks and Recreation Commission. We need some crossing guard volunteers. I would love anyone to step forth and give us a couple mornings a week on the crossing guard, and also always open to and looking for police auxiliary volunteers. If you or anyone you know listening here this evening or playing this wonderful meeting back for your entertainment would find interest in these open positions, please email town@sykesville.net for more info. And I will turn over the first of the staff updates to Town Manager Joe.
Just a few quick ones. So
Okay.
most of you probably realize that Main Street has still not been restriped. It was scheduled for today, but weather delayed that. I've not gotten a new date yet, but I imagine it's going to be pretty soon. Plus, State Highways is actually coming here tomorrow to talk about the bridge, south end of Main Street, so we'll make sure we remind them that they still restripe our Main Street. If you haven't gotten a call yet from Antietam Broadband, you probably will shortly, just for them letting everybody know that they are in town. They started last week. We've gotten a few phone calls, mainly for lack of notice, so we've reiterated to Antietam that, hey, you got to put your door knockers out, you got to make sure you're making people aware that you're going to be working in and around their property. There's only been one instance of a broken sidewalk that was reported to Antietam. They said they would take care of it, so so far, so good. We'll see how things keep progressing. It's going to be a long process. But,
Joe, was that the same resident that called the townhouse first that has been able to get in contact with Antietam, that Antietam knows?
we got in contact.
You got in, and is she aware that we got in contact with them?
I don't know if that particular individual left a callback number. They just called to.
Because I received an email, and I don't know if it's an additional individual or the same person that called, and if she didn't leave a name, we won't be able.
Thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'd have to go back and look at the email. There was some property damage. I feel like it was not a driveway. So we'll have to see if it's the same person. I'll reach out to her.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. This week, starting our annual audit. So I know everybody looks forward to the audit presentation. Just putting that on your radar. That obviously before the end of the year, we will be doing that. And then, not to steal any thunder from Councilmember Guroff, at least potentially, is I just wanted to thank Spark and all of the volunteers that came out this Saturday to do the cleanup in Cooper Park. It's certainly ready for fall. There is a plethora of mums that are planted in the park.
Do we
Love
It looks very
We
nice.
had over 25?
Volunteers.
I think so.
He had a picture of him on
Yeah,
Facebook. It looks
yeah.
like a good crew.
Yeah, it was over like 25 volunteers. So.
Lisa's addressing a member of the gallery, and the person she's addressing is
Our commissioner.
yes,
Parks
Alex is
and
the
Rec.
chair of Parks and Rec. Yes. So that was a great turnout. 20.
Yeah, it was over 25.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Anything else?
That's
Joe?
all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. That brings us to our public safety report. Chief Spalding, if you would please.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Seems like it's been a while since I've been before you,
Feels
and
like it.
apologize for my absence, but it's always good for you to see the quality staff that we have over at the police department, for the
It is.
lieutenant and Sergeant Kirkner to be before you and earn their pay. So hopefully they represented us well.
Very well.
Excellent. Let's talk about the public safety report covering the period September 1st to the 15th. I'm not going to go into a lot of the details because I have another summary that I would like to read to you or talk to you about. But as you can see, there were 629 total events during that period. So kind of a busy period for 2 weeks. And during that time frame, we also had 9 incident reports. I know there was a couple of questions about a few of the incident reports that I've already addressed. One was dealing with a death investigation out of sensitivity to the family. If we don't need to talk about that here, I think that would be appropriate. But any other questions about any of the incidents or any of the incident reports?
No.
Okay. On to my summary then.
Perfect.
A couple things I wanted to cover. Community policing is one, of course. That's our bread and butter here in town. And of course, on September 3rd, we did our annual first day of school patrols. We had myself and several officers, as well as several auxiliary officers out and about, patrolling the neighborhoods, waving to kids, waving to parents, watching the buses, as well as people at the school to deal with the influx of people, parent business directory. As you know, our town business directory is an important element of our town emergency operations plan. So it's important that we keep up with that, and Morgan's done a phenomenal job of doing so. She met with all of the new businesses and made sure we had proper contact information, emergency phone numbers and so forth for a lot of our new businesses here in town. So she's doing a great job keeping up on that. And of course, that's available to our officers 24/7 via our computer system. So at any given time, they can bring up a business owners, contact information, get in touch with them if there's alarms or something that happens at businesses. So again, kudos to Morgan. September 5th, Sergeant Lacey took it upon himself to contact several of our town liquor stores, convenience stores, as a result of a rash of burglaries in Eldersburg involving liquor stores. Again, this was not something that I asked of him. In fact, I was away during this time frame. He saw the need for it, proactively get out in front of this and visit the stores and make sure their camera systems were operating properly and they were aware of what's going on. So great proactive work on Sergeant Lacey's part.
Agreed.
And our 15th annual Junior CSI program is scheduled for this coming Saturday, Cooper Park, 9 to 3. I will be there. Sergeant Lacey has taken a greater role in this and helping me coordinate it and line up the presenters and instructors and so forth. We've got about 30 kids, middle school kids that are planning to attend. So praying for dry weather on Saturday, and everything should go well.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's
Yes,
great
ma'am.
that something that was started by, I believe, former Chief Williams and Dave Lewis, I believe, many years ago. And I'm thankful we've been able to continue it. Let's see, administratively, I just wanted to talk about, I'm sure you've seen in our parking lot, our 2 new Dodge Durangos, which arrived last week. Thank you all for your support in that matter. It's nice to be able to give our officers the proper tools and equipment to do their jobs, and these are very nice cars. Sergeant Kirkner is amazing at what he does. He's working on the installation of the things that didn't come with it, radios, computers, and cameras. Once that is done, of course, I need to go get it titled. I need to make a trip to MVA and get it titled. And I think, Carrie, I sent you a note about the insurance. We got to make sure it's covered on our insurance. But and then it'll go off to Shannonbaum's for decaling and marking, and it'll be ready to put in use. So thank you for that. And I know our officers are excited to get in their new cars and begin patrolling. So.
And which officers are getting the Durangos?
Sergeant Slayerth is getting one of them, and PFC Hoppa is getting the other.
Good.
So, yeah, 2 very deserving employees, and it'd be nice to be able to give those to them.
Were these purchased new?
They were
Okay.
brand new. Also, the new auxiliary vehicle, which the new used auxiliary vehicle we bought from the county. I just wanted to take a moment to say what an amazing job Lieutenant Queen has done with that. I don't know if you saw him, but he spent every bit of several days in the garage bay next door installing a lot of the equipment on his own. It's just amazing that a person that really didn't have much experience in that was able to learn it and do it in a matter of days. It's saved the town a tremendous amount of money in upfitting and installation costs for him to install the lighting and equipment in that car. So that's actually at Shannonbaum now, and I was just told today that that's done. So that'll be coming back here soon for you guys to see, and of course be decaled and striped with the auxiliary police logo and so forth. So it'll be a nice looking car. So on behalf of the auxiliary and myself, thank you for that as well.
Absolutely, and on behalf of the council and myself, please pass along to Lieutenant Queen. Not only are we aware of his skill set, but we're also incredibly grateful for his volunteerism. And I want the public to understand that when we say the words Lieutenant Queen, this is an auxiliary police officer as a volunteer, and at every minute he spends in one of those cars or on the street or upfitting one is off the clock, free of charge. So
You're right.
thank you.
Speaking of Lieutenant Queen,
Yes.
he will be leaving us for a period of about 6 months for a work-related assignment out of the country. So we've had several meetings to discuss who within the auxiliary will be assisting with the management of that unit. In fact, he's planning to promote several of his senior members to supervisory roles within the auxiliary.
Excellent.
Maybe we'll get that before, maybe the next couple of meetings, whenever we can fit it in, just to recognize them for their leadership and for stepping up in his absence. And Sergeant Slayerth will be providing sworn support to them as well as all of us while he's gone. So it'll be tough to miss him for 6 months, but duty calls and his paying job comes first. So we'll look forward to him coming back in the spring.
No doubt.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Chief. Any
Any
questions?
questions, please?
Well, Jeremiah, not a question, but Jeremiah's not here, so I will channel my inner Jeremiah and compliment you on the community policing. The one that especially made me notice was the one where Officer Hoppa talked to a person who had trouble in the past and was leading a good, clean life. And I think that kind of encouragement is probably worth a lot to that person, and it shows it's easier to solve a problem than fix a problem. So I'm very impressed by that.
Well, thank you for that. And there was actually another example of that we had to delete because it involved a juvenile. But our officers go above and beyond in every occasion, following up with people whom we sometimes arrest to ensure they're getting the proper treatment and services they need. And that, quite frankly, is unheard of in law enforcement. It doesn't happen in a lot of larger departments, and I'm very proud to say that we do it in every case that we can. So we've got a great staff.
Impressive.
Very fortunate.
Impressive.
Thank you.
Well, you kind of stole my gusto. So maybe you just harnessed your inner mayor and not your inner Jeremiah. But I actually wanted to give a psych out to PFC Hoppa. That community policing report on the whole was something I'd frame, and she was a part of.
Magnificent.
She was a part of about 75% of them, and just
She's amazing.
yeah, shake her hand for us and
will.
tell her that we said keep up the good work.
I will.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
All right. That brings us to council committee reports. Is there anyone with anything to share?
I'm not sure if I'm gonna steal anybody's thunder, but there's been many business owners, merchants that won Carroll's Best 2024. Psych out to all them.
No doubt.
Great work. I'm super proud of them that they were, I mean, it seems like all of Main Street down here is doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
So congratulations to all the merchants.
Yeah, they sure did show up at that this year for sure with the awards. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
So Parks and Rec, thank you. No, you're good. You're good. Coming up, we have Ghostbusters on October 12th for a movie in the park, and some music coming in at the end of September.
Which Ghostbusters?
Yeah, the new one or the old original?
The original?
The original?
The 1982 or something?
84.
84, okay.
Yeah.
All right, I was just wondering.
No, you're good. You're good. And then a reminder for council to get December 7th on your calendar from 3 to 6 so we can provide the security for Santa on Main Street.
The security.
I'm sorry, what that?
December.
Saturday, December 7th from 3 to 6.
The first Saturday of December, like we always do.
Look at that. I have
Three.
a-
I'm out of town.
What a shock.
Sorry.
Shock.
Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, that's right.
From 3 to 6.
3 to 6.
3 to 6.
Well, because of you, I always say 2:45.
So appreciate the council, in the past couple of years being there. I think it's a great town event. So
Thank you. It's it was already in my book, but unfortunately, I had spelled Santa wrong. So this is great. Thank you for that.
We don't want him
here
to.
to help.
Danta.
Danta.
Yes, Santa's arrival. Anything from
I want to give a shout out to a psych out to Joe. Last meeting, Dante presented some papers, and I was bugging Joe about it. And he took a couple pictures of it on his phone and sent it to me so I could read it. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. I'm not sure many people knew what was going on over there, but I was texting them, and it was nice. So thank you so much, Joe. HDC is meeting Wednesday. We got one application.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Joe.
I was gonna try to get that on the minutes, when we were approving it, and it just went too quick.
I'm so sorry.
Well, Mark had some comments to change, and I was like,
I had one goal and I left the house tonight at 6 minutes before the hour, and it was to be home by the end of that hour.
okay, all right,
So that's
Got
why
it.
I was moving so quickly.
that's okay.
Okay.
Thanks for the effort, Joe. It's greatly appreciated.
Leo, do you have anything for us, sir?
Yeah, just briefly, farmers market just has a couple more weeks to go,
Yeah.
so get out there. It's always been busy though. Tons of volunteer opportunities for the Fall Fun Festival and the Craft Beer Festival, so please check online at Downtown Sykesville Connection. DSC staff and some board members will be attending the Maryland and Main Street Conference in Frederick on October 8th, and DSC is working on an updated version of the visitor guide, which we hope to have in time for shops almost Saturday. That's it.
Excellent.
That's it.
Thank you. My only announcement is that I have been in contact again this year with Gary Hatton, the owner of Hatton Animal Rescue, and they're anxious to get some pumpkins for their animals again this year, and it's been a successful drive. This, I believe, is the third one, and in fact, yes, the third one, and it will be held on the same weekend as the Craft Beer Festival, and so it will be held on Sunday the 3rd. The festival is on Saturday the 2nd, but if you guys got pumpkins, as long as they're not rotting, and as long as there's no chemicals painted on them or marked up with markers of any kind, they can be carved or not. Bring them to the Little Sykes Railway Park, and that will be from believe that we do that from noon to 3. I'll have that in the newsletter. But yeah, I think that's the time we normally do it.
Wasn't the newsletter article due today?
It was, and yes, it was due today. It was a goal of mine for the weekend, and that kind of got blown up.
Because
You
of the
were,
Steelers?
you were not the only one.
Because of the
Yeah.
Steelers.
No, not because of the Steelers. The Steelers got pushed because of this other thing that pushed my ability to do my newsletter articles.
Sorry.
Yes. Matlock. If everybody hasn't seen Matlock yet, you gotta watch the new version of Matlock. It's good. Anyway, anything else from the council for the good of the order? And I am gonna call for a motion to adjourn. Anyone?
Make a motion to adjourn? No?
Oh, I'm sorry. I assumed you had, I walked in late and I assumed you let the group know. We are not having a closed session this evening.
Surprise!
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, there you
Wasn't
go.
sure, man.
No, I'm sorry. It actually, my screen went blank, but it was gonna say, the agenda notes, we are having closed session, but we are not. So, so a motion to adjourn was made by Councilman Grassley,
I'll second.
seconded by President Carter. All in favor of adjournment, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Of course not. 8:01 PM, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Good job.